Right, so losing the front wheel drive has obviously altered the dynamic character of the car, but it's also brought a useful saving. You'll be able to get the coupe and the Spyder. The base price of the Spyder that you see here is £135,575 in the UK. Yes, that's a lot of money, but it does mean that you're getting something that is going to have pretty much a supercar dynamic experience and that glorious V10 engine for the price of a top-end sports car. Audi have nicely laid on a private mountain road in Gran Canaria, so no oncoming traffic, which is always nice. As an opportunity to find out what the Spyder feels like when driven at a reasonable level of commitment. Now, I've already driven a coupe on track, and on track it does feel quite oversteery. You can definitely feel the torque all going to the back end. On road, you have to be pushing really hard before it becomes an issue. And I have to say, I mean, that's the advantage of the fact it's rear wheel drive. You're not really losing a huge amount in terms of traction or drivability, and you're definitely suffering from less of that slight front end steering corruption that you do get in the all-wheel drive R8s when you drive them really hard. But it also means that you don't have a huge amount of that throttle adjustability that people often associate with rear-wheel driveness. That's because at the back there's a conventional limited slip differential. It's a very honest way of doing things, but it's not got one of those clever torque biasing differentials or indeed any of the drift mode stuff that some people are now offering for cars in this segment. Other stuff, well, the engine is absolutely the highlight and always will be. Audi gives the V10 a really quiet low down voice. I've never really understood why, because if you drive it at 2,000–3,000 RPM it could be almost anything, but when you get the chance to actually unleash it, it sounds properly good. I mean, it's not the best sounding V10 in the world, because that's the one that belongs to the louder versions of the Huracan, but it does sound truly spectacular. It's a real wolf in sheep's clothing. And everything else about this engine, the response, the fact it's not got too much torque low down, so you can really lean on the chassis at lower speeds, is all great. Other stuff, this car's got the dynamic steering. All the cars on launch have the dynamic steering, which is the one that tightens everything up slightly at speed. It's still the thing that I like the least about the R8. It's hard to fault the response that you actually get from it. It's got a very accurate front end. You can lean hard on it. Very rarely do you have any sense of understeer running out of grip at the front end. But the communication just isn't there. It's one of those steering racks that adds weight without any meaningful feedback. And you do get used to it. I'm not saying that in any way this is a car that lacks character, because how could any car that sounds like that be accused of lacking character? But it is the weaker spot. The test car as well is also what's probably fairly rare. It's an R8 Spyder with the carbon ceramic brakes. Again, these are good. There's no squealing, no graunching, but I'm not really sure why you would pick them as an option on a car like this. This is a car that you can drive it hard, but it's definitely best when it's at that 8 or 9/10 pace, when you've just got the roof down and you're enjoying what remains one of the best exhaust soundtracks of any car in the world. The weird thing about the R8 when you actually look at the spec sheet is the stuff it's missing as much as the stuff it's got. The segment's moved on. I'm not just talking about junior supercars, I'm talking about sports cars as well. Really surprising to find out the R8 doesn't have active dampers as standard. It's got passive ones. But you know what? I have to say it doesn't matter. Okay, Gran Canaria's roads are usually pretty well maintained. But I've yet to find any surface that has actually caught this car out today. I think it's a really, really nice compromise. In other areas as well, in terms of the UI, in terms of the some of the packaging, it's still feeling a bit old, starting to feel a bit old. It is what it is. You know, the R8 has always lived its life in the shadow of the Porsche 911, and I'm afraid that the move from the 991 to the 992 has probably emphasised that a bit more. But once again, the Audi has an unbeatable trump card, which is the engine. There is nothing in the segment that sounds anything like this. There's something about a V10 that works particularly well. It's got that really angry tone that it's more exciting than even a flat plane V8 to listen to. And the fact it revs to 8,500, as I say, it's not going to be very many years before we look back at the very notion of cars like this and think, that was a different universe. Regardless of how many driven wheels it's got, the R8 remains a consummate all-rounder. And I have to say, it's one of those cars that every time you drive it, you remember all the things you like about it, even if when you're then asked to write the lists and come up with the hierarchies, it tends to get moved a bit further down. It's one of those cars that gets under your skin, and I suspect it would be an incredibly easy car to live with for a long time. One thing's for sure, even though it's too soon to be writing the obituary, we are going to really miss this car when it's gone.
Audi has confirmed the R8's replacement is going to run on pure electric power and feature vastly more technology than the very analogue rear-wheel drive performance does. That new car will undoubtedly be quicker as well when it arrives, but there is no way it is going to sound better or have the mechanical charisma that makes this R8 so special. Thanks for watching, and if you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to comment, like and subscribe to our channel for more new content.